Welcome to the EEOC's EEO Education Consortium Disability Forum here at the Learning Table. Today, we have a very informative event planned for you. We will have guest presenters from Computer Electronic Accommodation Program, also known as CAP, Job Accommodation Network, also known as JAN, the Workforce Recruitment Program, also known as WRP, and last but surely not least, the Department of State, the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations, led by Director Jamila Raja Akbari. So, additionally, I know this is a major question that we receive every time we have a presentation. Yes, the slides will be made available to you. So I wanted to make sure that we put that out there immediately so that you'll be aware the slides will be made available to you. For more information about EdCon, a community of practice and a repository for federal EEO professionals to enhance their knowledge and skills and offer best practices to strengthen federal EEO programs, please follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle can be found in the chat. It's EdCon EEOC, or send us a request for additional information by emailing us. That email address is in the chat as well, and it is edcon@eeoc.gov. Now, without further ado, please allow me to introduce our first guest presenter. Our first guest presenter is from the Computer Electronic Accommodations Program, also known as CAP. And that guests are, we have Brandon Kendricks and Michael Cushman. Brandon is a program analyst and an acquisition team leader. He is responsible for overseeing the purchase and accommodation of products and services that have been approved for customers. Michael is an outreach coordinator, and he supports CAP's outreach activities through partnerships, engagements, and managing CAP's social media and website content. Without further ado, I present to you Brandon and Michael.
All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As Anitra noted, I'm Brandon Kendrick, the acquisition team leader for CAP. So I'll be doing most of the talking today for CAP's presentation, but I will turn it over to Michael towards the end. He'll be driving the slides for me. But this way you don't have to listen to me talk for the entire time and get some more variety in your day. So just to go over today's purpose and agenda for CAP, our purpose is to provide you with an overview of the CAP program. Some of you, may be already familiar with us. Some of you may not. Some of what we do may apply to you. Some of it may not. For some of you, it may not. But we want to hopefully give you an understanding of what we do and how we might be able to assist your organization in providing accommodations to those in need. We'll discuss our history, the services we provide, and the individuals who are eligible for our services. We'll also provide you with information regarding CAP's request and acquisitions processes and our budget. Next slide. Let's go ahead and begin by looking at CAP's history. We were established in 1990 by the Department of Defense as a centrally funded resource. The intent of the program was to help with the identification and procurement of assistive technology accommodations for DoD civilian employees with disabilities. On October 30th, 2000, Congress signed the National Defense Authorization Act, giving CAP the authority to provide assistive technology devices and services to any department or agency in the federal government upon the request of the head of that agency. At the height of this partnership, CAP provided services to 70 non-DoD agencies, including Homeland Security, Justice, Veterans Affairs, NASA, and the State Department. In 2004, CAP began providing services to active duty service members, and with Public Law 109-364, which was passed on October 17th, 2006, this allowed service members to retain the assistive technology provided by CAP upon separation from active duty. Furthermore, Department of Defense Instruction 6025.22, Assistive Technology for Wounded Service Members, was signed on September 9th, 2008, establishing policy for assistive technology programs in the military health system. Starting just last year, October 2020, the beginning of FY21, CAP stopped providing assistive technology accommodations to non-DoD federal agencies. We do still support all federal agencies via needs assessments and the provision of product information. We just don't actually purchase the accommodation anymore for non-DoD agencies, and they must provide the accommodations themselves. But again, to reiterate, we are a point of a source for information and can help determine which accommodations are appropriate for your employees. So this slide represents how CAP fits in the organizational structure of DPFSO, and to highlight the ever-changing bureaucratic nature of government sometimes. As of today, I believe we are still part of this organization, but it's now the Defense Personnel and Family Support Directorate. So no longer an organization, now we're a directorate. When CAP was established in 1990, it was administratively aligned under the TRICARE Management Activity, which is now known as the Defense Health Agency. CAP transitioned to the DHRA, Defense Human Resources Activity, in 2012. And in 2017, DHRA stood up the Defense Personnel and Family Support Center. And just back in May, we were combined further into the Defense Personnel and Family Support Office, which is now the Directorate. The Directorate's mission areas have unique capabilities that actively connect services directly to our customers, and the field may include the states, federal agencies, the military services, service members and their families, or U.S. citizens living overseas. Our mission areas, as shown on the slide, include the employer support of the Guard and Reserve, the Federal Voting Assistance Program, CAP, and the Military Civilian Transition Office, which includes the Transition Assistance Office and the Yellow Ribbon Reintegration Program. And I just got distracted because there was a deer walking by right outside my window, so apologize. Next slide, please. The Rehab Act of 1973, as amended, requires federal agencies to provide reasonable accommodations to employees with disabilities. CAP serves as a procurement resource to assist agencies, again, now just DoD agencies, in meeting their obligations to accommodate. Section 501 prohibits employment discrimination based on disability. Section 504 mandates that all federal programs and non-governmental organizations receiving federal funds provide accommodations. Section 508 mandates that federal agencies ensure that when they develop, procure, or maintain information communication technology, that the information be accessible to employees or members of the public with disabilities. Next slide. As we alluded to earlier, there was one instruction regarding service members, but there is two that form the foundation of CAP. The other is DoD 1000.31 Computer Electronic Accommodations Program, published October 26, 2018. This establishes policy and assigns responsibilities for the implementation of CAP. And the one mentioned earlier, 6025.22, was reissued in January 2015. And this DoD establishes policy and assigns responsibility between CAP, the military treatment facilities, and warrior transition units. As we've all had to adjust to COVID-19, so has CAP. So we've adapted to a new virtual world. As we're doing now. Last year, we began modifying our processes to accommodate employees outside of the traditional office setting. For example, we realized that it's difficult or impossible for some people to travel to the office to pick up their accommodations. Typically, we required shipping accommodations to the employee's work address. So we adjusted policy so that we can ship accommodations directly to a teleworker's home address. We are also able to provide duplicate accommodations. If an employee has an appropriate accommodations in the office, CAP will assess requests to provide duplicate accommodations for use in the home or telework environment. Several of these actions may require coordination and/or supervisory approval, but CAP will work with customers to determine the best solutions. We also modified our outreach efforts. We began providing virtual briefings or trainings to our partner audiences. We've made this adaptation to help get the word about CAP and our services to everyone who can benefit from them. If your agency or another department would like more information or another CAP briefing, please reach out to let us know, and we'd be happy to schedule another event. Next slide. So what exactly does CAP do, and who is eligible for our services? So some of the services that we provide, again, products and services. CAP provides assistive technology as reasonable accommodations, along with associated training at no cost to DoD agencies. CAP also assists in identifying the most appropriate accommodations via needs assessments. You may have employees who have had their disabling conditions for all or most of their lives. Chances are that they can identify their own appropriate accommodations. However, some individuals may have newly acquired limitations or may be performing different duties in a new location. They may realize that they need better tools, but may not know what's available. The needs assessment process helps address that need. CAP also provides training, both online and virtually, on our services as they relate to disability program management. We want to support your efforts to ensure agency-hosted and sponsored events and programs are accessible to individuals with disabilities, including members of the general public. Through these actions, CAP supports the compliance of a variety of federal disability laws, rules, and regulations. Next slide. So who's eligible for CAP services? As I mentioned, CAP's customers include DoD employees with disabilities and active duty service members with limitations. So to continue, we support workers' compensation beneficiaries and term and temporary employees, such as interns participating in the workforce recruitment program, which we'll hear about later. In addition, CAP supports DoD managers and agencies who understand their obligation to accommodate their employees. It's imperative that DoD agencies make their information and services accessible to employees or the general public. CAP is available to help managers and agencies meet these obligations. Next slide. In compliance with DODI 6025.22, CAP supports service members who, 1, are going through the med board process and will be medically separating from active service. 2, are continuing on active duty, and 3, have qualifying medical conditions and have been identified as needing services through our Wounded Service Member Initiative. When CAP issues accommodations to customers, the equipment becomes the property of the agency. Accommodations for continuing on active duty service members are the property of the agency. However, with the John Warner Defense Act of 2007, those service members who receive accommodations from CAP during their recovery and rehabilitation process are entitled to retain the accommodation as their personal property upon separation from active duty. So if those service members receive the accommodation from us, it's theirs to keep and utilize in their next endeavor, whether that's entering the job force or going back to school. Another benefit for continuing on active duty service members is that CAP may be able to accommodate a request for a sit-stand workstation. The service member would need to present medical documentation signed by a medical professional, which identifies the limiting condition and level of severity. These service members are encouraged to go to the CAP website and submit a needs assessment request. Assessment specialists will work with the service member to determine if the documentation is adequate to qualify for CAP sit-to-stand services and to help match the best sit-stand station to the service member's unique situation. Next slide. The needs assessment process. So as I mentioned earlier, we no longer provide the accommodations to non-DoD, but we do still provide needs assessments for anybody. So many employees who have experienced their disabling condition for all or most of their lives are already familiar with the tools they may need to be accommodated. CAP does not require that everyone receive a needs assessment. However, individuals with newly acquired disabilities or limitations or who are working in a new physical environment may not know what tools exist or may not know how to determine which tools best fit their needs. Through the needs assessment process, CAP assists individuals in identifying the best possible equipment and tools needed to support them in their work environment. We consider the individual, their limitation, and their job requirements to help the individual compare and contrast the capabilities of the tools so that they can make the best informed decision for themselves. In addition to the labeled diagnosis, we'll ask about the specific limitations, as the same diagnosis can affect two different people in completely separate ways. So we'll ask, what do you experience? Does your experience change from day to day or from morning to afternoon? Are you receiving any medical or therapeutic treatments? Are your limitations expected to change or remain static? Then we'll ask questions to help us understand the job. Do you work with both electronic and hard copy information or only on the computer? Do you work in spreadsheets and email and Word documents, or are you in graphic design and web management? We'll also ask questions about the current physical and electronic environments to help us best understand the complete picture. From this information, CAP can then help the individual compare and contrast tools which might help. Next slide. So just give a brief overview of some of the assistive technology that we typically will be looking at suggesting in these needs assessments for the 5 different disability categories that we kind of how we split up everything. So those are primarily dexterity limitations, vision limitations, hearing limitations, cognitive limitations and learning disabilities, and communication limitations. So for dexterity, you're looking at things like carpal tunnel syndrome, tendonitis, arthritis, spinal fusions, ALS, quadriplegia, and some of the accommodations that we might provide for individuals with any of those conditions would include things like alternative keyboards and pointing devices, voice recognition software, keyboard trays, monitor arms, document holders, and telephone headsets. For individuals with vision limitations, that could be caused by diabetic retinopathy, macular degeneration, cataracts, legal or complete blindness. We'll provide items like screen readers, which take all the information coming from the computer in a visual format and converts it to speech output. Braille displays are similar, but they provide the computer's output in 3-dimensional Braille. We can also provide closed caption TVs, which is useful, closed circuit TVs, excuse me, which are useful for changing the magnification level and color contrast on hard copy documents. Screen magnifiers and readers provide some of the same capabilities to electronic documents. For individuals with hearing limitations that may be deaf, hard of hearing, or people with different levels of hearing loss, we can provide services and products. So it could be something like sign language interpreters, cart service providers, video telephones, and captioning telephones, and also audio amplification devices for the telephone or face-to-face. For cognitive limitations, some of the conditions may be attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, dyslexia, PTSD, or a traumatic brain injury. Oftentimes, we're providing accommodations that help assist with memory recall, reading comprehension, and noise canceling headsets to aid in concentration when working in noisy environments. And for communication limitations, the accommodations often include things like voice amplifiers and augmentative communication devices, as well as word prediction software for those that have difficulty with finding the right word choice. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide and start wrapping it up, and I'll pass it over to Michael Cushman.
Well, all right. Thanks, Brandon. That's pretty much the broad overview of CAP, who CAP serves, and what CAP can provide. So now we're going to talk about the actual process for requesting things from CAP, whether it's a physical item or kind of that needs assessment that Brandon walked through as well. So this is a screenshot pretty much of CAP's homepage, www.cap.mil. If you come to this page, this is what you'll see. It's kind of the hub for all things CAP. It's here that you can start requests. You can browse a wide range of potential accommodation solutions, learn things about different assistive technology and about the news and events that CAP's been up to these days. So about halfway down on that page, on the right-hand side, there's a big cursor that says Start My Request. So if you are interested in starting your request, all I gotta do is click that. And after that, it'll take you to the next page that'll begin the CAP request process. So after you click that Start My Request, it'll go to step 2, Continue with My CAP Request. And this statement pretty much just informs that when you're submitting this request to CAP, it's not the same as your own agency's internal request process. And we do encourage all individuals to follow their own agency's process before coming to CAP, just to make sure everyone's going through the right channels and that kind of thing. After you kind of click accept that and move to the next step, it'll be the beginning of the filling out the form. Who is this request for? You can either fill it out for yourself, or if you're a rehabilitation or EEO specialist, you can mark yourself down there as you're filling it out for someone else. Once you finish that and go to the next step, this is where you kind of reach a fork in the road in the CAP request process, where you can either choose between selecting an item. So if you know, for example, if you are an individual with carpal tunnel syndrome and need an alternative keyboard, and you know which specific keyboard, then here you can click, I know exactly what I need, and just click that and then keep moving through the process. You can put in that information and all your information go that way. If you don't know what you need, or if you're just looking for some advice or some suggestions, you can just click I want CAP to contact me, and that will begin the process for the CAP needs assessment. Begin the CAP needs assessment process. So if you do that and fill out the form, and someone from CAP will reach out to begin that process with you. All right. And so as you continue to move through these steps, there'll be a place to put in information about your condition, your mailing address, who you work for, all that kind of stuff. And at the very end, there'll be a review stage. And then after hitting that submit form on the last, you'll get an email along with anybody else's email you put in, whether that be a point of contact or anyone else. And you'll get pretty much an email confirming that your request was received. If you don't receive that email, reach out to CAP. Most likely something went funky in the process, and we can make sure your request gets received. Fiscal year planning. So while we are pleased to be able to serve as kind of a procurement resource for different accommodations, at heart, CAP is a federal acquisitions program, and as such, CAP must comply with the federal acquisitions regulations, or the FAR, in order to maintain acquisitions integrity. CAP uses 3 primary procurement vehicles to purchase accommodations. The one to use most often, and the one that we kind of steer people towards, is that BPA, the blanket purchase agreement. The BPA is typically the quickest method to procure accommodations, and so pretty much we can just get the tools out to people as quick as possible through the BPA. It's the least amount of paperwork really to fill out, and we can just get things to people as fast as possible. All the items on CAP's website are BPA items. It should be a kind of a wide range of items. The idea is that we have a wide enough range of items there that individuals can request things from this BPA without having to go off it. However, if there's something that you need that CAP doesn't have listed on their BPA, then these accommodations may be considered a micro purchase, and CAP might be able to use a government purchase card or GPC. And then if the cost of a single item or group of item exceeds the threshold to be considered a micro purchase, CAP would procure via purchase order. Purchase orders are the most time-consuming process, and requested accommodations that aren't available in the BPA will also need additional justification why they're needed over some similar item on CAP's BPA. And if you have any questions about this, feel free to reach us out. Feel free to reach out to us. I know Brandon knows a lot more about this as being the acquisitions team lead, so sure we can answer all sorts of questions about this as well. And moving on to the next one, CAP resources. So CAP has a wide variety of virtual resources in order to kind of spread the word about CAP services. We want our partners, customers, stakeholders to be able to increase their knowledge about reasonable accommodations and have all the information that they need to better access CAP services. All right, so CAP has a series of online training modules, including information from managers, supervisors, employees, and other points of contact. There's things on there about reasonable accommodations, trainings on disability etiquette, and other kind of topics related to both the disability field and things that kind of impact CAP as well. CAP also has a variety of quick tips and webinars that pretty much just are designed to help customers have a more seamless experience when they're submitting their CAP request. These things include things like eligibility for CAP services, how to find your serial number when you're requesting upgrades, information about needs assessments, how to choose the correct delivery address, when or if medical documentation may be needed for your CAP request, and just more information about accommodations outside of CAP scope. CAP also has a variety of webinars as well that kind of expand more, that are kind of along the lines of online training. So about different things like accommodating the aging workforce, and different diagnoses and conditions like ADHD and anxiety. And finally, CAP is also able to provide briefings to your location along with needs assessments. So if you would like CAP to speak to your local office, do something like we're providing here, or do needs assessments, CAP does have a virtual teleconference VTC system available from our office in the Pentagon, so we can do remote needs assessments as well. So please visit the training and outreach section of our website, and you can request CAP to come to your briefing, come to your ending event, whatever it is. We're happy to come and speak to everyone. Also, you can connect with us on social media. We're on all the major ones: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. Feel free to like, follow, subscribe. We try and share information that might be pertinent to CAP's audience on special events, observances, as well as just news about CAP and reasonable accommodations. You can find us. We try and stay out there, so please feel free to give us a follow. And then this next slide is how to contact CAP. Those two numbers lead to CAP's kind of main phone line, so it comes to me and a couple other people who can direct you towards the acquisitions team or the assessment team or CAP Tech folks if needed. We also have our CAP Tech phone number, along with the website cap.mil, and our main email address cap@mail.mil as well.
The Job Accommodation Network, the leading source of free, expert, and confidential guidance on workplace accommodations and disability-related employment issues. And without further ado, I welcome Linda Carter-Batiste.
Thank you, Anitra. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be talking about the services that we provide at the Job Accommodation Network. And then I want to share some atypical or difficult accommodation examples that we've helped employers with over the years, and then some practical tips for dealing with those types of difficult accommodations. So JAN, for those of you who are not familiar with us, is a national service, free, because we are funded through a contract with the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy. So all of our services are free. You can use this as much as you want to, and there's never a fee for our consultation. And our consultation is related to trying to help you brainstorm accommodation ideas. Any situation, it doesn't matter if the person actually has a disability as defined under the ADA. We're happy to help with any types of limitations that employees have, and try to brainstorm successful accommodation options for you to explore with the individual. We also do provide information on the Americans with Disabilities Act and Section 501 of the Rehabilitation Act for federal agencies. We're not a legal service, but we do provide practical guidance from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, as well as practical ideas that we've come up with for complying with the law. We do talk to everyone. It's not just limited to employers. So we hear from a lot of individuals with disabilities who are requesting and negotiating accommodations. We think this helps us be more aware of the issues that can arise, and that's what we base our practical guidance on. So we hope that if you've used our service, you found it useful, and if you haven't, we hope that you will contact us if we can be of service to you. You'll also see on this slide that we have a website which is located at askjan.org. It's an extensive website with lots and lots of information and training options, modules, things like that. We have a library about the law. We have lots of ways that you can explore accommodation ideas and look for information about accommodations that you might have to make. Again, all the information is free on our website. So the main things that we do are the one-on-one consultations on a case-by-case basis when you contact us, and our extensive website with information. It's available 24/7. Our services are available 9 to 6 Eastern Standard Time. All right. So now I want to share with you some accommodation and ADA situations that can present challenges in the workplace. The categories I want to share are accommodations that affect others, workplace changes, uncomfortable issues, and then some pandemic related issues. So we're going to start with accommodations that affect others, and I've got a couple situations that I want to share with you. The first example is related to a fragrance policy. We have an employee with chemical and fragrance sensitivity who asked her employer to ban employees from using any product with fragrance, and that included perfume, shampoo, soap, deodorant, and laundry detergent. And as you might imagine, the employer said, no, we can't do that. That kind of policy would be impossible for us to enforce, and we feel that it would put too great a burden on coworkers. And honestly, that's probably a correct answer under the ADA and the Rehab Act. That's typically considered an undue hardship to try to implement such a policy. But what we suggest is look at what else might be effective. You don't want to just deny a request like that because it's too difficult to do. Consider other options. Some of the things that we have developed is information about how to create a fragrance-free zone in the workplace. We found from feedback from employers that have tried this that they found that not just the employee with the fragrance sensitivity was interested in these zones, that other employees like to work where they're not exposed to fragrances and smells. So this is something that maybe would work for a lot of people in your workplace. As long as you maintain confidentiality, you can tell everybody you're creating this zone, see who wants to sit in it, and not totally ban fragrances all over the whole building. If that doesn't work for your situation, then telework is another option that we often explore. Another example is of an accommodation that can affect others is allowing a service animal into the workplace. And here's the example that we hear about the most. An employee with PTSD asked to bring his service animal to work. His employer denied the request because a coworker is allergic to dogs. And this comes up so much that we decided we were going to write a publication about it. This is another situation where you don't want to deny the request and without doing anything else. You want to consider options to try to accommodate both employees. Our publication has a lot of ideas for doing that. A few of them are to try to eliminate in-person contact between the two employees. They don't need to work in close contact. Maybe you can move them to different parts of the building. Minimize exposure if you cannot reduce or eliminate in-person contact. For example, some people could go to a meeting without their service animal for a few minutes to meet in person with the other people that are allergic. Or maybe you can have one person join the meeting remotely if that's not an option. And again, if all else fails, maybe you can look at allowing telework for one or both of the employees. Oftentimes, in my experience at least, people do like to telework, and if that's an option, you may have employees wanting to do that. The next area of difficult accommodations I want to share a couple examples about is workplace changes. My first example is one that comes up a lot. It's the new supervisor. A new supervisor noticed that an employee was not fully performing her job. I'm sorry about the sirens outside my window here. When he discussed the performance issues with the employee, she disclosed she has multiple sclerosis, and her previous supervisor had accommodated her by doing the job functions she could not do. This is something we hear about a lot, a long-term relationship with a supervisor and an employee. This just kind of evolves over time and is great until a new supervisor comes in, and then it's not so great. This particular situation, the new supervisor told the employee that she had to start doing all job functions or she was going to be terminated. In this case, the employee was so stressed by that that she decided just to look for another job. So that is a very stressful situation. It's not necessarily illegal for a new supervisor to make changes and to require somebody to start doing their full job. But what we suggest is that you engage first before making changes. Don't forget about accommodations that are in place and try not to make changes without going through the interactive process. In this case, maybe nobody else knew about it except for the former supervisor, but the minute that the supervisor found out about this situation, they should have gone through the interactive process to explore accommodations that might enable that employee to fully perform the job And if not, maybe reassignment would be an option. We always suggest job carving, although it's not required that an employer remove essential functions. At the same time, it's not prohibited. So again, we're here to explore options. We're not restricted by what's required under the law. So we're happy to explore things that would work for you and the employee, even if it's something that maybe you're not required to do. Another example of a change is related to parking. Here we have an employer who moves to a new location where there is less parking. The employee lot has the required number of accessible spaces under accessibility guidelines, but it's not enough to accommodate all employees who need parking related accommodations. This is one we hear about a lot. Some employers think, well, we've got the number of accessible spaces required, so we're just going to stop there. You don't want to stop there, and you don't want to give up just because you don't have enough accessible spaces. What we recommend is that you get more specific and you gather more information. You can get documentation from each employee, or if you don't already have it, or you can just talk with employees about their actual limitations and needs. Not everybody who has, for example, a parking placard needs an accessible space. Sometimes people just can't walk very far, and maybe a space 5 over from the accessible spaces would be enough, sufficient. And if that's the case, you can just put a reserve sign on that spot for that individual. You want to assign parking based on needs. Like I said, not everybody's going to need the accessible parking spaces. And if that's still not enough, then you can consider options, other options such as maybe valet parking, if that's an option that you can offer, or even back to telework. And I want to mention with the accessible reserve sign, you don't necessarily have to put the person's name on it. We get a lot of questions about, well, won't that violate confidentiality? You don't have to put the name on the sign. You can just put reserved and give the person a number, your number 3, and put number 3 sign in your car. It'd be as simple as that. The next thing I want to talk about is uncomfortable issues. This one probably makes employers the most squeamish of any that I can think of. My first example is body odor. We have an employer who received reports that an employee had severe body odor that was so bad that it was disrupting the workplace because employees sat close to each other in cubicles. The employer went and confirmed that the odor was severe and very unpleasant, but was concerned that a disability was creating the problem, wasn't real sure what to do, so told the coworkers to just tolerate it. Go away, just tolerate it. Well, you can imagine how successful that approach is. In my experience, that problem's not going to go away. It's going to escalate. Coworkers may start leaving notes on the person's desk, may say some snide things. They tried to get you to fix it and you didn't. So this is one of those issues that you probably need to take actions. We have some suggestions on how to deal with this kind of situation and just take a step-by-step approach. Having an approach seems to be very helpful when you're dealing with a tough situation. Once you've confirmed it is a problem, an example of the approach you might take is first decide who's going to talk to that employee and what's going to be said. Have a private meeting and allow enough time. And I say this because you don't want to go to the person's desk in front of everybody else and say anything about it. And obviously most employers won't do that, but we have had employers that did that. I say allow enough time because if your goal is to give the individual the comfort that is needed to disclose a disability and ask for help, you want to allow the time to do that. If you have a 5-minute meeting because it's uncomfortable and you spill what you need to say and then take off, that person's not going to have the opportunity or the comfort level to disclose. You also want to explain the problem. We've had employers who kind of beat around the bush with this kind of thing and the individual's not really sure. Sometimes they don't know the problem. They don't detect the odor like others. So you want to be specific with the problem and what you expect and how long you're going to give the individual to fix this. This is all before a disability disclosure or an accommodation request. Obviously, you want to be sensitive but straightforward about what's going on and always offer to help. That opens the door for the employee to ask for help and to disclose. And if the employee discloses a disability, then you can start engaging in the interactive process. But you don't really need to speculate on whether it's a disability or bring it up If the employee has a disability, hopefully this will give the employee the opportunity to ask for whatever is needed to address the problem. And we do have a page on conduct issues that has these steps in it. Another example of an uncomfortable situation is inappropriate behavior. Here we have a longtime manager who began coming to work disheveled and appearing disoriented at times. HR called him into a meeting after he screamed at an employee. He denied that anything was wrong, blamed it on the employee, said she deserved it, and that she was insubordinate. He then left the meeting and slammed the door. HR wrote him up an official reprimand for this conduct, and a week later, the manager screamed at a customer, which was grounds for termination. Tough situation for an employer. We've got a long-term employee here, suddenly starts acting strange and doing inappropriate things. If you want to, we often suggest that you consider whether termination is the best option for this situation. Obviously, you want to document what happened. You may want to consider getting medical information if ADA or Rehab Act standards are met, and that's a reasonable belief that a medical condition is creating the problem. That may not be the best approach for you, but you can always offer to help, like I mentioned earlier. If you have appropriate resources, you can refer the individual to those resources. You want to let the individual know that you are interested in retaining this employee and that you want to help, but the employee is going to have to give. This problem cannot continue. If the employee says, yes, I would like to work with you, and explains what's going on, maybe you want to consider offering a last chance agreement, a document that basically says, we're going to give you one more chance. If you do anything like that again, you're out of here. The last section I want to talk about, give you a couple examples, is COVID-19 pandemic issues. I'm sure you all are hearing lots and lots of things related to this. I know we definitely are. I almost included a vaccine exemption because I know that's the hot topic right now, but I decided to go with the mask exemption. I was a chicken, so I just decided to go with a little bit easier option here. We have an employee with a respiratory impairment who provided a doctor's note indicating that the employee has trouble breathing while wearing a mask. The employee asked for an exemption from the employer's mandatory mask policy. The employer denied the request based on safety. So obviously safety comes first, but that doesn't mean you don't consider other accommodations to overcome valid safety concerns. And that's very important, obviously, right now during the pandemic. Some things that you might do if someone can't take a vaccine or can't wear a mask, if you can offer a private office, in this case where a mask can be removed most of the day or the employee won't be exposed to others. Rest breaks to remove the mask. Sometimes employees say they can't wear a mask at all, but if you probe a little further, they actually can wear it briefly, as long as they don't have to wear it all day and as long as they're allowed to take a break when it becomes too much. We have heard of some success for employees with respiratory impairments using a mask frame, and I've got a picture of one here. It just basically allows more airflow between the face and the mask, and it doesn't suck down onto the face when the person breathes. Doesn't work for everybody, but I always toss it out there because it has worked for some people. And maybe you can implement other safety strategies. I've got a link here to some other ideas that you might explore. And going back to the old faithful telework option, as a last resort, or maybe as a first resort, if that works best for everybody, telework could be a successful option. And my last example, anxiety and return to work. So many questions about individuals who are very anxious about the possibility of returning to work. And for people with mental health conditions and maybe some other medical conditions, this anxiety can exacerbate their medical conditions. And that's what happened here. The employee wanted to continue working remotely because of fear of returning to the workplace and how that was affecting her medical condition. Her employer denied the request because the employee could not fully perform her job from home. The employee refused to discuss any other options that would involve coming to work in any capacity. And unfortunately, this is a frequent issue that we hear about. Again, we suggest the employer not give up. It's not all or nothing in most situations. Sometimes if you can help the employee feel comfortable discussing the situation, let the employee know that you're not going to force anything right now. You just really want to talk about the options. Sometimes there's a specific source of fear that the employee's job duties involve in the workplace, maybe exposure in a certain area. Maybe you can address that more specifically than just fear of returning to work, and identify and eliminate those triggers, or at least reduce them to an acceptable level. You could also maybe consider an ease-in approach. What I mean by that is let the employee know you're going to allow full-time telework for a little bit longer, temporarily, but there is an end date to it. And then you're going to look at a hybrid schedule where you ease back into the workplace. If this individual can do the job part of the time from home, maybe you could say, hey, we're going to allow ongoing telework part-time for the rest of the pandemic, as long as you're able to effectively do your job. But for the rest of the job, we do need you to come in. Let's look at how we're going to do that. We do have a telework flow chart that we recently published with steps on processing telework requests. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. Again, that's free on our website. Tough situations with the pandemic, lots of fear and lots of need to reopen your workplace. So if we can help you with that, don't hesitate to contact us. We do have a page on COVID with lots of publications. We try to put those out as soon as we start hearing about a topic frequently. We're working on a vaccine exemption publication and flow chart for processing those requests. So look for that in the near future. In the meantime, we have lots and lots of information on that page, and you can access that right off of our homepage, which again is askjan.org. I greatly enjoyed being with you guys today and talking about these important topics, and don't hesitate to contact me if you think of something later and have a question, or you just want to review something that I said. And the easiest way to find our contact information is just go to askjan.org and click on contact. All of this information about how to get a hold of us is on there.
All righty. Thank you so much again.
Sure. Happy to be here.
Our pleasure. We're so grateful to have had you.
So our next presenters are going to be presenting from the Workforce Recruitment Program. And we have with us Lauren Harris and Frances Vey. They are both business development specialists in the U.S. Department of Labor's Office of Disability Employment Policy. They are program managers for the Workforce Recruitment Program. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Lauren and, Lauren and Frances.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Frances and I are very excited to be here today and to talk with you about the Workforce Recruitment Program, or as we like to refer to it, WRP for short. This program is very near and dear to my heart because I got my start in federal service through the WRP. So it's really been a privilege to not only have seen the program from a participant and student side, but then be able to manage the program and help other students and recent graduates with disabilities obtain employment in federal service and share this great resource government-wide. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the agenda here. I'm also joined by my colleague Frances. There we go. Perfect. So first, I will talk a little bit about what the WRP is and kind of give a brief general overview, as well as an overview of our organization, ODEP. Then we'll talk a little bit about the Schedule A hiring authority and how agencies can use that hiring authority to bring in candidates that are a part of the WRP database. We'll then conduct a website review for how you all as federal employers can gain access to the database and begin candidate searches. And we will wrap up today's presentation with some outreach strategies that your agencies can use to help promote and increase visibility of the program. And last but certainly not least, we'll talk about success stories as well. So with that said, we are the Office of Disability Employment Policy, for those of you who may not be familiar with us. We are the only non-regulatory federal agency that promotes policies and coordinates with employers and all levels of government, so that includes federal, state, and local, to increase workplace success for people with disabilities. We do this in a variety of ways. We have several different policy teams within our agency that focus on various areas of disability employment. For example, we have a team that focuses on youth with disabilities. We have an adults with disabilities team. We have a research team. We have a team that works specifically with employers on employment issues. And we have a research team. And last but certainly not least, we have our policy communication and outreach division, which is actually where the WRP program is housed. And that division is, responsible for sort of our outward communications and sharing what our other policy teams within ODEP are working on. Our division is also responsible for coordinating National Disability Employment Awareness Month, which we're in the middle of right now. Yay, ending. So we do a lot of wonderful work, and now I'm excited to chat a little bit more about WRP. So in a nutshell, the Workforce Recruitment Program is a free recruitment and referral program that helps connect federal employers with highly motivated current college students, graduate students, and recent graduates with disabilities. The program has actually been around for quite a while. It began in the 1970s by the Department of the Navy, and then was expanded to be a federal-wide program, and is now jointly managed by us at ODEP, along with our colleagues at Department of Defense. And we're really grateful for this partnership with them. And I should say that our current college students and recent grads, they are eager and a part of the WRP database to get connected to internships, temporary and permanent employment nationwide. So who are some of the candidates that are a part of our database? What I really want to emphasize on this slide here is that we have a wide variety of candidates from different professional and academic backgrounds that are available for a large variety of types of positions. We do have a large percentage of recent graduates who have recently obtained a degree and are actively seeking that full-time permanent position within federal service, in addition to those that are seeking internships throughout the year. I wanted to give you all a sense of how the overall program works, because there are a lot of individuals involved in producing the database every year, and we couldn't do it without their support. So we have school coordinators that register their colleges for participation in the WRP program every spring, and it's usually someone from the university's disability or career services office that gets the school registered. And then they work with their students and recent graduates with disabilities to market the program and educate their students about the program and help their students apply in the fall. As part of this application process, students submit a general application along with a resume and a transcript, and all of this information is made available to employers year-round. Also, during the fall, after the application period has ended, We have volunteer federal recruiters who conduct remote informational interviews with candidates and kind of answer the candidates' questions related to federal service, provide them feedback on their resumes, etc. And any federal employer can register to search for candidates at any point throughout the year by going to wrp.gov and clicking on the employer registration button. If you haven't already done so, I would certainly encourage you to do so right now. It's a really simple registration form, and once you receive approval from us, you'll be able to search the database. So this next slide just shows a snapshot of some of the candidates that we have in the database that is currently available to federal employers. So we have more than 2,500 students and recent graduates from 380 accredited colleges and universities nationwide. Now, I won't go through each individual statistic on this slide, but a few that may be of interest to you are that approximately 10% of our database have self-identified as veterans with disabilities, and about 20% have identified themselves as pursuing an advanced degree or having recently graduated with one. So those are just a few statistics of note there. I will also mention that the database itself is a very diverse database and closely mirrors you know, the general makeup of the U.S. college student population. So now that you kind of have an understanding of how the program works and sort of the ins and outs of it, why might you as a federal employer want to use the WRP as a recruitment tool? Well, let me tell you. So first and foremost, it's really easy access to candidate information year-round with new data posted annually. We release a new WRP database every December. Our next database is going to be released December 13th. We do this every year because we want to make sure that the information in our database is as up to date as possible for you all as employers who are searching to fill various positions at your agency. It allows agencies to find candidates with the specific skill sets that you need. Francis will go into all of the search capabilities with our WRP database, but you can do a lot with the system and really narrow down and focus on the specific areas and skill sets that you need for the positions you're looking to fill. It's been designated as a model hiring strategy by the Office of Personnel Management as an effective recruitment tool for bringing individuals with disabilities into the federal government. Additionally, all WRP candidates are eligible for hiring under the Schedule A hiring authority, which means that you can hire WRP candidates without going through the traditional competitive hiring process. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Frances, and she's going to provide a brief overview of Schedule A and get into the WRP website more specifically. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Lauren. Hopefully you are familiar at least a little bit with the Schedule A hiring authority, but in case you aren't or need a refresher, we wanted to talk a little bit more about what that is. So we're specifically today talking about the Schedule A hiring authority for persons with disabilities. Schedule A is sometimes used for other reasons. For example, it was used during the COVID-19 pandemic to bring on temporary workers to support some work at agencies around the pandemic and the response to that. But today we're talking about the Schedule A hiring authority for persons with disabilities, which allows individuals with disabilities to be hired into the federal government through an accepted service hiring authority non-competitively. And it means that you as a federal employer, you do not need to post the position or go through the certification process in order to bring someone on if you're using the Schedule A hiring authority. In order for someone with a disability to be eligible to be brought on under this authority, they need to have a Schedule A letter. And this is a letter that confirms their eligibility to be hired. And it needs to be provided by a licensed medical professional, a certified vocational rehabilitation counselor, or any state or federal entity that issues disability benefits. You can see examples of what a sample Schedule A letter looks like on OPM and EEOC's websites, or also on our website at wrp.gov. But in a nutshell, this is what is required to be brought on under this authority. And we educate our school coordinators and our candidates on Schedule A, and that they will need to be prepared to provide a Schedule A letter to HR if they're being brought on or given a tentative offer for a position at a federal agency. So a lot of the time we get questions about, how, if I'm interested in using WRP, how do I get started? What do I need to do? So we ask that the hiring managers that are looking to bring someone on to an internship or permanent position should start by identifying the key qualifications and essential functions of the position and what they're looking for in a candidate. And then you can just start conducting searches. These searches can be done on wrp.gov by the hiring manager themselves, another staff person or federal employee that is supporting the hiring manager, or it could be a human resources staff person or disability program manager. Anyone with a federal government email address, as I believe we cover on the next slide here, is able to, or maybe one slide further down, but they're able to sign up for the WRP and search for candidates. So as Lauren mentioned, we do encourage you to go to the website and register. Then once you've done those searches, which we'll discuss in more detail in a minute, you can save information about the candidates and reach out to them by email or phone to schedule an interview. You do need to make sure that you're following your agency's hiring procedures, and you should make sure that you're working closely with your HR at the time you're prepared to offer an internship or permanent position to a WRP candidate, because HR will need to verify that Schedule A letter and be working with you through that process. In most cases, agencies are responsible for funding the position. The exception to that is we do have a handful of agencies, including Department of Defense, that have a centralized fund for WRP interns. So if you're bringing someone on permanently, the agency would need to fund that. But if you are at a department or agency that does have a centralized fund for WRP, you may be able to utilize that for internships in some cases. And if you have questions about that, you're welcome to reach out to us. So then once that hire has taken place, we here at WRP do ask that you make sure that you report any candidates on the WRP website. So if you were able to bring someone on successfully and you found them or initially did outreach to them because of seeing their resume in the WRP database, please do report that to us, because it allows us to document the successes of the program and to continue to increase the successes in future years. So now for sort of the nuts and bolts of how do you get started. So we do really encourage you today to go to wrp.gov and click on the employer registration button. As I mentioned before, you don't need to be a hiring manager to have access, but you do need to be a federal government employee. If there is anybody from the private sector who's on the call today, we do have some ways that our technical assistance center can connect you to WRP candidates. And there's a link on the employer page of the website that will allow you to connect to them and get more information about that process. But at this time, private sector employers are not able to register on our site, but you can sometimes get connected to candidates if our Technical Assistance Center is able to source some of them for you. So you can reach out to them for more information about that process. The website can be searched by a wide variety of criteria, so you can really drill down into what you're looking for in terms of a candidate. We do suggest that in most cases, you want to be searching for jobs between the GS3 and GS12 level. While we do have some non-traditional candidates that may have more significant work experience and could be hired at higher GS levels, most of our candidates are students or recent graduates, and they're just starting out or continuing in their federal career. So the sort of entry to mid-level positions is where most of them are going to fall when you're looking to bring on candidates. And then also by using the site, you can save candidate resumes for later viewing and report hires, as I mentioned earlier. So this is just a screenshot of what the WRP database search page looks like. And we provided this here just so you have a sense of just how many criteria you can search based on in the system. So I'm going to run through some of the most common ones that we see people looking at here. So a few of them that we like to focus on are job preferences. So that will closely mirror the job series on USA Jobs. So that's a great place to start. You could select information technology or policy or administration, HR, EEO, or science and technology. There's lots of different areas in there. You can search based on when somebody will graduate or has graduated, the type of degree that they're pursuing or their major. You can also search based on specific keywords in their technical skills or their resume and documents. So if you're looking for someone with a specific, let's say, language fluency or a background in certain computer programs or languages, that's a great way to get that type of information. You can also see if the candidate is, if you're looking to bring on veterans, you can search based on that, as well as employment type. So if someone's looking for internship or permanent position or both. And then you can also search based on location preference. So you can sort of unlock and enlarge that location field and then put in the different states or territories where you're interested in hiring a candidate. And so those are just a few. There are more on this page as well that you can take a look at. So now that you have a sense of the website and how to search for candidates that you may want to hire, we wanted to talk a little bit about what strategies you can implement in order to bring on candidates successfully to your agency and allow more federal employees at your agency to know about WRP. So the first one we really highly suggest is incorporating WRP into your agency's current recruiting and hiring strategies. So if you have a recruitment checklist, or if you're in HR and you have a set of best practices, please make sure that WRP is a part of that and is being considered, and that hiring managers are informed about what the program is and how they can utilize it. Another one we really suggest is engaging agency management and leadership. A lot of the time when there are champions of the program that are able to, share it with leadership and others at the agency, that can be a really big influence in increasing the number of hires that we see from that particular agency or department. So we do encourage you, as you have new management or leadership coming on board, to share with them about the program and ways that it can be helpful to your agency in terms of bringing on the next generation of talent. Next, seek out hiring managers who are looking to benefit from staff support. As you saw from the statistics that Lauren shared, we have a lot of really well-qualified candidates that are really eager to get started in federal government positions and to have that opportunity to learn and grow and start their careers. So really think about that as you're considering utilizing WRP. Also, make sure that you have a regular outreach strategy. Repetition is really key, especially with a program that might not be in everyone's vocabulary every day. So make sure that you're including it in, newsletters, if there's a relevant like press release on your website, whether it's internal to your agency or publicly available, any other kind of strategies, social media, things like that that are helpful in sharing this that your agency uses as a tool to get information out to its employees, especially hiring managers. And then last but certainly not least is to communicate success stories throughout the agency. So this is one that we really always enjoy sharing and that we encourage you to share success stories you're aware of with us as well. It's one of the best ways to promote WRP is when someone knows, another coworker who had success hiring from the program, or they know someone who was an alumni of the program. It can be a great way to just demonstrate how successful the program has been and that there are WRP, alumni working across the federal government. So I actually have a couple of examples to share with you briefly today with two recent success stories. So the first one that we have here is Sylvia Calderon, and she is a graduate of Georgetown Law School. She started as a policy intern at Department of Labor, and she did such a good job that they actually transitioned her into full-time employment. And she has really enjoyed working in the federal government. She also got a really great opportunity because of her background in law and her skill set. She received a detail with the Wage and Hour Division, assisting with the COVID-19 response. And, we've heard from the Wage and Hour Division that she was just a really big help to them and what a valuable resource, she was to their agency during that time. And Sylvia just had a really wonderful experience with WRP and is excited to see, where her career goes next. And our next success story here is Kip Hurwitz. He's a graduate of California State University, Fullerton, and he got the opportunity to do an internship at the Department of State, and then was able to transition to full-time employment with Department of State and is now serving as an equal employment opportunity specialist there. And he really felt like he gained a lot from WRP because he had the opportunity to come for an internship in Washington, D.C., and learn about a new city, and now lives here and works full time, and he just really credits WRP with opening up a lot of doors for him for the future. So I believe that is the last of our slides here, and I'll leave you all with our website and our email address, which is wrp@dol.gov. You're always welcome to reach out and email us with any questions. Lauren and I are in that inbox all the time, and we're happy to respond. And we can also take any questions that have come in now through the Q&A or the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Frances.
With her office. She toured the Access Center just weeks after her appointment, showing her commitment to help us create a more accessible department for everyone. This leadership buy-in, both now and throughout the process of creating the Access Center, has been key in our efforts. Slide 3, please. First, I want to give you a bit of background about OAA. The department created this office in May of 2015 as part of the Bureau of Human Resources, which is now called the Bureau of Global Talent Management. And it's a one-stop shop for creating a barrier-free environment. Teams from different bureaus and offices came together to form one cohesive office. It grew out of a desire to be more accessible and responsive to reasonable accommodation requests. Now, it took support from our Undersecretary for Management. It took a full-time person dedicated to creating the office and key partnerships with our Office of Civil Rights and then also the Bureau of Human Resources. Slide 4, please. Now, we have grown into the office that we are today, a hub of expertise on accessibility, accommodations, and disability. In other words, a one-stop shop. We provide solutions that help to contribute to the State Department's broader effort of cultivating a culture of inclusion and creating an environment where every employee can best use their talents. And our goal is that every employee helps us reach a barrier-free workplace by incorporating accessible design into their everyday processes. This means that each of us has the responsibility to build accessible products and events from concept to execution. What you see right here is a simplified, previous slide, is a simplified functional chart that just gives you a sense of how we're structured and the level of resources that we have. Thank you. Next slide. This slide shows at the time our Chief Human Capital Officer, Ambassador Carol Perez, and our Deputy Secretary, Began, cutting the ribbon for the opening of the Access Center on December 3rd, 2020. Now, the Access Center helps us achieve the goal of a barrier-free environment. We opened it on the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Now, it was during the height of COVID that we did do the ribbon cutting, so it was a small outdoor ceremony celebrating this milestone. We are excited to share the center with you and our process of creating it from conceptualization to implementation. Slide 6, please. So let's begin with a virtual tour of the facility. We filmed it at the height of the pandemic, so you will not see any other people in the center except OAA staff. After the video, my colleague Rich McCarthy will then discuss the process of creating the Access Center, taking you from concept to implementation. Thank you.
Seal of the U.S. Department of State. Brian McKeon, Deputy Secretary of State, Management and Resources.
Hello, I'm Brian McKeon. I'm proud to introduce the Department of State Access Center, a 2,400 square foot facility that offers centralized disability services and expertise to Department of State employees and applicants. The Access Center will build on the department's efforts to increase diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. As the President has communicated, this is a national security imperative. Building a department that reflects the American public ensures that critical perspectives and talents are represented in the national security workforce. As Secretary Blinken has said, quote, "Diversity and inclusion make us stronger, smarter, more creative, and more innovative. And our diversity gives us a significant competitive advantage on the world stage," end of quote. We know this from experience. Our diverse team here enables us to better fulfill our mission at the department, and it requires ensuring that the most valuable tool that we have, our people, have an equitable opportunity to contribute to their full potential. That means it's essential for the department to be a model employer for all Americans, including individuals with disabilities, and the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations plays a pivotal role in that effort. So the Access Center is a symbol of the department's commitment to remove barriers to employment. But it's much more than a symbol. It's a gateway to success for everyone who enters. We have more work to do as we continue to strive to increase diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility at the department. I look forward to working with you on this effort together. Thank you.
The Access Center. Jamila Raja Akbari, Director, Office of Accessibility and Accommodations.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jamila Raja Akbari, and I am the Director of the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations in the Bureau of Global Talent Management at the U.S. Department of State. The Office of Accessibility and Accommodations, also known as OAA, provides centralized disability services with the goal of creating a barrier-free environment. Now, Secretary Blinken has prioritized diversity, inclusion, equality, and accessibility with the goal of that the Department of State truly reflects America. OAA contributes to the department's effort of fostering a culture where we can meet these ideals. We help to create an environment where every single employee can utilize their talents to the fullest and further the department's mission. That's one of the reasons we opened this 2,400 square foot Access Center. It's a facility that offers centralized disability services and expertise to Department of State employees, current and future. OAA opened the Access Center on December 3rd, 2020, International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and it demonstrates the department's ongoing commitment to individuals with disabilities, both within the department and as an important part of U.S. foreign policy. The center serves as a model operation for the federal government and the diplomatic community. And it's a place where employees can test, train, and provide us with feedback on what works. In an environment that's similar to their workplace, whether it's domestically or overseas. Today, we want to take you on a tour of the Access Center so you can see for yourself the resources available to all employees. Inside, you'll see our impressive array of technology, hardware, including a state-of-the-art video conferencing and collaboration system. You will also see some of our assistive technology specialists who are able to demonstrate technology solutions to users, both in person or remotely. They will show you a variety of technology, from ergonomic keyboards to a telepresence robot. You'll also meet representatives from this team, our video captioning team and our assistive technology team. And each will discuss the importance of making content accessible and how we can help. We have a lot to show you, so let's get started. Rich McCarthy, our assistive technology specialist, will begin the tour.
Hi, my name is Rich McCarthy, and I'm an assistive technology specialist in the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations in the Accessibility Division. I'm here today to take you on a tour of the Access Center. First, let's start in our opening area here. This is where our front desk is, and when we return to the office, this person will ensure that you can enter and exit the space safely. Next, let's head over to our meeting room and let the tour begin.
A room with computer, phone, and braille reader.
The meeting room space is designed for OAA staff to be able to sit down and meet with employees to discuss their accommodation needs openly and given the privacy needed to do so. The space comes equipped with a video phone for remote interpreting services, a PC, and a braille embosser. The Access Center also has the ability to host remote consultations so we can work with our foreign service staff. The Access Center comes with your typical workspace that you might find in an embassy or consulate overseas. Next, let's head over to our conference room and demo area.
He enters a larger room with assistive tech devices on the table.
Here in our conference and demo area, we have a wide variety of accommodations set up. The idea behind this space is to be able to tailor the experience to the employee to address their needs. So first off, you can see to the left here, we have the Focus 14 and the Focus 40 and a variety of different braille displays. Next, we have a braille embosser. So this can be used for an employee to be able to print accessible material or as a resource for the department to print accessible material as well.
A tablet-like device on a pole.
Next, we have our robot. This robot is controlled remotely by you using an app, and you're able to take a virtual tour of the space, and we can walk the robot around with you. Over here, we have two different desktop magnifiers. One with built-in optical character recognition, which enables you to scan a hard copy piece of material and have it read to you out loud. The other one is a bit smaller and can roll left to right so you can scroll through a piece of paper. Next is the Ubi Duo. The Ubi Duo is used when there's no sign language interpreter on site. It enables a user, for example, at a consular window, if someone approaches, to be able to communicate with each other. Over here, we have some of our phone amplification tools, as well as a caption telephone that offers captions in real time for someone that may be deaf or hard of hearing. Next, after that, we have our Catchbox here. It's a wireless microphone amplification device. So it enables you, if you're in a conference room and you're sitting on the outskirts of the table, to be able to speak into and allow anyone that's calling into the meeting to be able to hear you clearly. It's also a great tool for engagement because it's fun to throw around.
Large screens on wall.
And lastly, I'd like to talk to you about something that's really cool, is our Mezzanine 300 system. The Mezzanine 300 system is a collaboration and training tool that's equipped here in the Access Center. It enables you to have several live streams going at once. You can move things around rather easily with the wands, as you can see. The Mezzanine 300 is a great training tool, not only for our employees that need to train on reasonable accommodations, but for our IT staff when called upon in the field, so it's not the first time they're encountering the accommodation. Next, I'd like to toss it over to Cherie Alexander, who will discuss our demo workstations and cover some of our ergonomic equipment.
Hi, my name is Cherie Alexander, and I'm one of the Assistive Technology Specialists here at the Access Center alongside Rich McCarthy. As Rich explained, we have a wide variety of innovative assistive technology equipment to support our department employees with approved reasonable accommodations. One of the great features at the Access Center are the 3 hands-on demonstration stations where you can test out the various equipment that we house here at the Access Center. Some of the equipment that you can test out at the Access Center are the ergonomic keyboards and mice, such as we have here at the Station 1. Here we have the half QWERTY 508 keyboard that's paired with the joystick mouse. At Station 2, we have the large print keyboard that's paired with the aerobic mouse, but it can also be paired with the foot mouse. At Station 3, we have the Kinesis contour keyboard that we have paired with the table mic, which can be programmed using a foot pedal. But it's also paired with the vertical mouse. So as you can see, we have a large array of assistive devices equipment, from the freestyle keyboards, one-handed keyboards, to an array of mice that you can test out. Not only are we here to answer questions, but we're also here to provide troubleshooting solutions. At our workstations, you can also test out some of the software programs that we have before installing it on your office workstation or to your Telework site. Some of the software programs that we offer are JAWS, Dragon, Kurzweil, ZoomTech, and ZoomTech Fusion, just to name a few. If you'd like to request an appointment at the Access Center, you can do so by submitting a request at oaa@state.gov. Again, that email is oaa@state.gov.
Hi, I'm Ashley Jackson, and I'm on the Video Captioning at State team. The Video Captioning team supports the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations mission to create a barrier-free environment. Video captioning supports Sections 504 and 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 by making video content accessible for deaf and hard of hearing audiences. Our team provides captioning services for both pre-produced and live video content. We caption thousands of videos and live events a year. The pandemic has increased the demand for captioning services, both post-production and live. More video content is being produced by the department, and perhaps everywhere, than ever before. Why caption your videos? First, it's required by law. Captions provide a critical alternative for the 48 million Americans and 360 million people worldwide with hearing loss. It means that no matter your target audience, it certainly includes those who would benefit from captions. Also, more than half of viewers watch internet video content with the sound off. Captioning supports greater engagement between videos and audiences. How do you know if a video needs captioning? If the video is being distributed to any audience, inside or outside the department, it needs captions. Hosting a webinar? Get it captioned. Making a video for your Post's YouTube channel? Get it captioned. Auto captioning is not Section 508 compliant because it's not yet accurate enough. Currently, auto captioning is about 70% accurate. By contrast, our live video captioning is about 95% accurate, and our post-production is 99% accurate. We have great news for Department of State video content creators. Our services are centrally funded and free to you and available in dozens of languages. We can caption a video in a number of days with faster turnaround times available if needed. For department employees, you can visit our site in OpenNet, Go Virtual, or Go Browser and fill out a request form. Once the video is captioned, we'll send you everything you need in an email. Contact us at videocaptioning@state.gov for more information. Captioning is not just the law, it's the right thing to do.
Hi, my name is Pierre Monticelli, and I'm with the 508 program team. Did you know that 1 in 4 U.S. adults, that's roughly 61 million Americans, live with a disability? Section 508 of the 1973 Rehabilitation Act states that all information and communication technology, or ICT products, purchased, built, maintained, and used by U.S. federal agencies must be accessible to and usable by individuals with disabilities. ICT products include web applications, websites, and electronic documents. Our 508 program team serves as a central resource and provides training, education to help make products accessible and ensures the department has 508 compliant products and adheres to the law. We want to give you an example of the importance of making documents accessible. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, also with the 508 program team, Mary Babley.
Thank you, Pierre. My name is Mary Babley, and I am going to be showing some examples of inaccessible and accessible documents. For example, here's an example of an inaccessible directions. If you notice, this paragraph shows that it has no steps nor clear directions. Let's go to an accessible format. If you notice here, you will see that every step in the directions are broken down into lists, and also clear directions are given, such as head south, turn left, turn left. So this is how you provide accessible directions to people who are blind or low vision who use assistive technology like screen readers. So when they use the screen readers, it will read in order and provide clear directions. Let's go to another example. Here's a topic that we want to talk about. It's about Section 508 law. This does not give any indication that there is a topic and also subtopics. Let's go to an accessible format. If you look at this example, you'll see that it has a topic, main topic, a subheading, and subheadings underneath the main subheadings. There are also lists that are numbered and bulleted. All of this will help a user who uses screen reader to understand that there are hierarchy in the headings and that they can follow them in order. This is what an accessible content looks like. Are you new to all of this? Not to worry. We are here as the Section 508 team to provide the following services. If you have documents, we can remediate them. We can help you create accessible documents and also provide solutions to maintain accessibility. The next service that we provide is accessible applications and websites. If your application is not tested, we test them and provide reports and also provide solutions for the issues that are found. The next service that we provide is also education and training. So here's where you can reach out to us and say you're new to this or you want a topic that you want to learn about under Section 508 law. We can provide those trainings for your groups. The next service that we provide is for tools. If you have tools that you want to use on a daily basis at work that help you perform better, you come to ITCCB group, which is the Information Technology Change Control Board, who approve those tools. And we help vet for Section 508 and provide the upgrades as well. So please reach out to us at Section 508@state.gov so that we can provide these services to you. And we look forward to working with you. Thank you so much.
Akbari. Thank you for joining us on this virtual tour of the Access Center at the U.S. Department of State. Please reach out to us if you have any questions or would like to tour the state-of-the-art facility. You can contact us at oaa@state.gov.
Hello, I'm Ambassador Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, the State Department's Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, or CDIO. In my role, I lead diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility efforts across the department. So I am thrilled to be part of this virtual tour of the U.S. Department of State Access Center. This center provides assistive technology solutions and resources to employees with disabilities. The State Department is committed to building an agile, inclusive workforce that reflects America's diversity and capitalizes on the talents of all segments of the population, including people with disabilities. This is the best way to advance America's foreign policy priorities. The administration prioritizes diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility to ensure that multiple perspectives and talents are represented in our workforce. But we can't build lasting diversity without first building an environment where all employees have the opportunity to excel and contribute to our mission. This includes individuals with disabilities. At the department, 14% of our total foreign and civil service workforce identifies as an individual with a disability. This is more than 3,000 employees, our colleagues. We strive to create a truly inclusive workplace where individuals with disabilities equally work, grow, and thrive at the department. And I'm excited to be a part of this effort. We must create a workplace that realizes full participation and equal opportunity. We must raise awareness and make changes that help us get there together. Bureaus, offices, and teams across the department need to incorporate diversity, inclusion, and accessibility into the department's work at every level. This creates a barrier-free environment which helps us achieve our mission goals. The Access Center contributes by ensuring access to services and state-of-the-art assistive technology, tools, and resources to support our teams in their work. The Access Center helps employees with disabilities utilize their full talents in the workplace and participate in all aspects of work independently. As a leading foreign affairs institution, the State Department has a responsibility to create an inclusive, diverse, equitable, and accessible workplace, and be a model to other federal agencies and the world. Let everyone commit to a more inclusive and accessible workplace. Together, we'll succeed.
The Access Center, Global Talent Management, U.S. Department of State, OAA.
Okay, thank you. My name is Rich McCarthy, and I'm the Accessibility Division Chief here at the Department of State in the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations. So this image here on our slide is where the concept of the Access Center originated from. Our original space before we had the Access Center was called the Computer Accommodation Technology Center, or the CATC. This was situated directly across from our bookstore and right next to the entrance for people going to the garage where their cars were parked. So there was a lot of garage fumes, dirt, a lot of foot traffic, made the place rather dusty and unclean. So there was a constant flow of people walking by the space. We were really unable to discuss accommodations in a private setting. So our ultimate goal of building off of the idea of the CATC was to establish a place where people can express their needs in privacy and have the space for us on our end to be able to display the accommodation equipment that we wanted to provide to our employees. So next slide, please. All right. So the first image on the other slide was what the outside of the space looked like. So this is the image of what the inside of the space looked like. It's a little bit bigger than your standard closet. We only had about 5 tables and 1 large cabinet. So it kind of limited us on what we could actually display. So that was kind of a building block for us right there. Once again, it was loud from people walking by. We had strangers occasionally stopping in thinking it was a computer lab so they could log on to check their emails. So the lack of privacy was a major concern for us, especially when discussing medical and addressing reasonable accommodation requests. Next slide, please. So some of our first steps that we took in getting us out of the basement of the main building and into the concept of the Access Center. We kind of got to the point with the initial vision, which was driven home by our previous director, Stephen King. Some of you may have worked with him in the past and were familiar with his passion for accessibility. He had known what other agencies had done and what we could do better. We wanted to make sure that when we're creating the Access Center, the department's staying competitive in hiring and supporting a diverse workforce. We really got across the finish line, though, with our Chief Human Capital Officer, known as the Director General here at the Department of State. She charged us with opening the Access Center in 2020, and we built it into the department's diversity and inclusion strategic plan. So some of our key to successes was our collaboration with other offices and bureaus across the department. So this ranged from our administration bureau, the Real Property Management Office, our executive office, all of the Office of Accessibility and Accommodations, and the Office of Civil Rights. And one of our biggest selling points for the need for this upgraded space was that it's not just dedicated to employees with disabilities. The space is a resource for the entire department. So anyone who's committed to creating and supporting a more diverse workforce. This ranges from anyone from our supervisors to our IT staff as well. Next slide, please. So creating the space. Some of the image here shows our Ambassador Carol Perez, Deputy Assistant Secretary Jean Julio, and one of our department architects meeting at the Access Center to discuss blueprints, patterns for furniture and rugs, and we had a handheld magnifier there as well. It was key for us to continue to meet with project planners frequently to make sure that accessible design was included in every aspect of the creation. We met to discuss everything from carpet colors, where our demo computers would go, where our IT staff will sit, where private meetings will be held, how to incorporate training classes, where we will host them. So we really wanted to make sure we had a multi-purpose, multifunctional space that not only for accommodations and demoing technology, but to make sure we included all the needs of our OAA staff and the needs of our civil service, foreign service, and individuals with disabilities across the department. Next slide, please. So when developing our inventory and kind of cost estimates, we wanted to make sure that we kind of developed our startup costs to get the center up and running. We took a tiered approach to make sure we had our wish list versus our must-haves. We spent many hours looking up quotes online, reaching out with vendors, trying to see, you know, what we could kind of spec out there. And after we got our total, we used some of those figures to develop what we believed would be a yearly refresh cost. So that way we made sure that the department will continue to support the Access Center and we're staying up to date on the latest technology trends. So with that, if I could turn it back over to Jamila and have her mic unmuted. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rich. This is Jamila again. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Many thanks again to EEOC for hosting this event. I'd also like to mention that how fitting is it that we started today's program with a presentation from the Computer and Electronic Accommodation Program, CAP, who was one of the first in providing assistive technology and accommodations to support individuals with disabilities, and creating a facility that helped us form the idea of the Access Center. CAP graciously hosted us in 2018 to visit their facility and answered our questions about our own project planning. We also received similar support from the USDA's Target Center. And although we may be the latest assistive technology center in the federal space, we hope we're not the last. So if you or your agency or organization is interested in creating a similar space, please also reach out to us. You can contact us at OAA. You can stay up with any questions or schedule a tour of the Access Center. We are doing in-person tours. We're limiting the number of people, but we are doing more on-site visits and consultations. With that, I now would love to take any questions that the audience has. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a fantastic presentation.